something you never done seen. Swaggy but still an MC. My guilty conscience, that bitch just keep on talking. Say you're not touching the thing, you rash boys. Probably gon' sing for the moment. Fuck the police when it's me and my team. Pussy that's bad means give it like word to the 313.
Hey, what is up, guys? This is Platinum Point, and I'm here to bring you guys yet again another Weiss Schwarz deck profile. This one is going to be on my Hololive production deck. So I've been testing this set for quite a while, and I've been looking at the various builds that have been topping in both the English and the Japanese metagame, and so I decided to showcase one of the few builds that I personally am working on, which is the Kanata Marine build. So if you guys are not familiar with that Climax lineup, it involves running 2 level 3 Climaxes, Climax combos, that being the Hosho Marine finisher, as well as the 3/2 Kanata from the trial deck. So this deck overall, I like it, as it does play into a very old school strategy of Weiss, which is constantly slamming Climax and pushing damage. But unlike your typical modern Weiss deck, it's not running a plussing 1-step combo, but instead relying on using the Kanata, which is technically a level 2 Climax combo that allows you to essentially plus majorly by either salvaging or stocking, and we'll go more in detail when we get into that, when we talk about that card specifically. But overall, before I go into the deck profile, I just want to remind you guys, please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this, especially if you want to see content geared towards competitive Weiss Schwarz gameplay, as that is kind of my main focus with Weiss Schwarz, not just the market or deck building, but also just gearing kind of a competitive mindset and building those competitive builds. So you get to see it from a perspective from a player who dances the line between casual and techie and creativity, with someone who focuses on the competitive scene. So overall, I have to preface, if you decide to play this deck, be very careful, because this deck does have a huge learning curve compared to other Hololive builds, since you're not running a typical plussing 1-step combo. So you're relying more on kind of just pushing damage in the early game and focusing on plussing back all those resources at level 2 and setting up for your end game. So this deck doesn't play like a traditional Climax combo or traditional or typical Weiss deck nowadays. So that's why a lot of people like this deck, because it's kind of like a it follows a similar principle as standby decks, where you kind of invest into your main strategy, and then when you pull it off, that's when you get to reap the full investment of it. And this deck kind of plays in that kind of spirit, in a sense where you have to wait, set up the conditions to launch your plussing combos, and then just let it roll. And the thing about this deck is, if you try, this is not a beginner friendly version of Hololive. If you want to play a more beginner friendly one, I suggest looking at Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz's channel, the group. Their exploration into Hololive is very beginner friendly, specifically the non-Kanata Marine build that they have. Another channel that you can check out for kind of a beginner friendly until I release my version of it is from Tressa's Collectibles. So I suggest you look at that, or even Chairman TCG. I'll put those links in the description below if you want to see a more beginner friendly kind of mindset with this set. So without further ado, let's get on to the levels. Get on to the level zeros. But before we do that, I just want to do a quick explanation about this Climax. So this is a stock soul, but not like your typical stock soul, in which is you usually stock a character whose color matches the said climax, which is for this one green. But so in most situations, you're gonna be relying on stocking this one allows you to stock a level 1 or lower. So this allows you to kind of just cross the color barrier and stock whatever resources that are available in the waiting room. And the thing about this is, when you play this deck, you have to choose when to, especially when you're about to launch the combo, when to stock put a card from the waiting room to stock, because depending on the situation, you might want to stock a character from waiting room before you proc the combo, because part of the first step of the combo is a change, and if you stock it before you change, the change targets that get played out do not gain the +1 soul. So you got to be very careful with how you modulate this stock soul, and there are situations where you can get away with that. So be careful, and you gotta play by ear, aka pay attention to the board state. Anyway, enough of me rambling about that. Let's get on to the nitty gritty. So starting off with the level zeros, we play 4 copies of this Aqua Ricky. If you're not familiar with Ricky effects, it basically is pay 1 and you either send a card from the top of your deck or a card from the waiting room or itself to clock in order to perform a specific effect. For this one is when it's sent from stage to waiting room, you can pay 1, select a card from your waiting room, and then put it at the bottom of your clock, and then you can check up to the top 2 cards of your deck and add any Hololive characters from among them and add it to your hand and send the rest to waiting room. So this allows you to, if you hit it, not only dig for 1 but dig for an additional card. So it's essentially a +1. It is a +1 since you get to replace the 1 aqua that you lost with 1 card, as well as gain an additional 1. So this is kind of your plussing fodder in this deck, because it allows you to kind of just dig deeper into your deck and get pieces that you need to either send off for other effects or to set up for next turn. Continuing on, we play another set of Rickies, which is the Aki Rose one. So this one has the profile known as Krista. So if you're not familiar with that effect, it's essentially a salvage Ricky effect. So for this one, it has the same cost as the Aqua, where when it's sent from stage to waiting room, you can pay 1, put a Hololive character from the waiting room into the bottom part of your bottom slot of your clock, and then instead of checking the top 2 cards, you salvage a character. So same cost profile but different effects, and these are your just basic main utility level zeros. Since you're not playing a level 1 climax combo, you're basically relying on these as your plussing or your resourcing material for the game plan. Continue on with the level zeros. We play 4 copies of the trial deck draw brainstorm. Since this deck kind of does need this as a key piece, as it is not only a mill 5 but a global 1k to all of the 3/2 Kanatas that you play, you actually are kind of locked into playing this brainstorm because of that very fact. So it's essentially pay 1, tap self, mill the top 5 cards of your deck instead of 4, and for every climax revealed, you can draw a card. So this allows you to dig deeper into your deck, although not selectively. You're kind of at mercy to the RNG, but since you have to play this, you do rely on other cards to help you be a little bit more selective with your resourcing. So I do play 4 just to ensure that I have 2 in the backline early game. Continuing on with the level zeros, we play 3 copies of the Towards the Future Akai Hato. So this card has the Rize profile, and if you remember from my previous video where we talked about Rizes, it's basically the effect of when this card gets reversed, you can reveal up to the top 3 cards of your deck and choose a specific card from among them and add it to your hand and send the rest to the waiting room. For this specific Rize, you are digging for climaxes. So this allows you to essentially, your goal is to constantly loop the stock soul as much as you can, because this will allow you to build your resources in order to set up your climax combo, since that requires you to have stock in order to play out your climax combo. So being able to just spam that loop, that level, that stock soul as often as you can is very vital. Continuing on with the level zeros, we play 2 copies of the bomb disposal squad Amane Kanata. So this is a level 0 bond, which basically is you discard it, you pay the specific cost. So in this case, which is a discard a card from your hand, send a card from your hand to the waiting room to salvage the bond targets that are bolded. So in this situation for this deck, we are running the on-stage Kanata. So this allows you to essentially discard any dead cards from your hand to set up your level 2 climax combo. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of the Luna climax swapper. So you need this just to help you loop your climax combos, and also just to get rid of the door climax combo, as it is most of the time pretty useless in the early games. Your main goal is to try to loop the stock soul in order to build up your stock and launch your climax combo at level 2. Now continuing on with the level 1s, we play 4 copies of Towards the Future Roboco. So it has one on play ability, which is you may discard a Hololive character from your hand, and you can reveal the top part of your deck, and you may salvage a Hololive character whose level is equal to the revealed card. And remember, climaxes are always considered 0. It also has a second ability, which is when this card declares an attack, you can give one of your other characters plus 1500. So this allows you to kind of just allow you to power pump specific lanes in order to guarantee reverses. And this is your main, besides this bonder, which has another nasty ability, which is a discard 1 card from your hand, send this to the waiting room to salvage a generic card. These 2 are your main forms of selective salvaging, and you kind of need to, that's why sometimes if you reveal level 0, my main target will be either the Ricky, the Rize, or this specific level 0, in order for me to get additional resources either from the deck or from the waiting room that I couldn't get off of the Roboco. Continuing on with the level 1s, we play 2 copies of Elite Power Sakura Miko. So this Sakura Miko is from the trial deck, which has the ability, if you control 2 or more other Hololive characters, it gains plus 2k, so it's an easy 6k body. And it has the encore ability, which is you send a character from your waiting room into the bottom of your clock to re-rest this when this gets reversed, or if you want to replay it. So this card is just your main beat stick, but since Roboco is your main utility, some builds kind of flip the numbers, where they run 4 of the Miko and 2 of the Roboco. But I got this suggestion from a buddy of mine at my locals, who suggested if I play 4 of this, as this is the main level 1 that allows you to get access to, allow you to recur resources from your waiting room in order to set up your end game, as this is just here just to push damage, and in reality that's all it does, while this is your main utility level 1. So that's it for the level 1s. We're gonna go on to the level 2s. We play 1 copy of Towards the Future Tokoyami Toa. So this is your level assist which is 500 times the level of the characters in front of it, so they gain 500 times their level. And when it comes into play, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a level 1 or lower card, you can stock it. And it also has a nice ability that which is an act ability. You can send this card from the stage to the waiting room to select one character from your opponent's back row or backstage and move it to center stage. So this allows you to really take out some of the utility level zeros, or even create lanes for you to just hit precision damage, as sometimes direct attacking isn't a viable option, as you don't want to give your opponent the increased likelihood of canceling. So that's why I like to play one of this, and we only have room right now to play one copy. If you want to play a second copy, I'd suggest cutting something from the level 0s or the level 3 lineup in order to play a second copy. Continuing on with the level 2s, we play 2 copies of the Hachima Beam Akai Hato. So this is your generic 2/5 backup with an additional ability. If you use this as a backup, you can discard 4 Hololive characters and select one of your opponent's characters and rest it. So this is essentially a money counter that allows you to deny your opponent 1 lane of damage. And I basically run this because the Kanata Climax combo allows you to develop a hand size capable of paying the cost. And since most people are afraid of rest counters compared to anti-early play counters, I play 2 just to threaten my opponent with the threat of being denied 1 lane of damage, which will protect me from either leveling up or taking unnecessary damage. So I like to play 2 just to threaten that possibility. Continuing on, we play 4 copies of the snooty Amane Kanade. So this is your level 2 Climax combo, which has the ability. You're only playing this for the ability. You rarely play it for the backup unless you really need to save a character, and the backup value is 3k. So you basically play it for the Climax combo. So when the stock soul Climax is in play, you can send this card to the waiting room in order to early play this Kanade, the on-stage Kanata, which has the on-play ability heal, which is either if it was played from hand or by the Climax combo, you can heal. And it also has a Climax combo which procs off of this Climax at the beginning of your attack phase. If this is in the Climax zone, you gain the following ability, which is you can select up to 2 cards from your waiting room, and you can either stock either or both, or add both to your hand. So when you first proc this combo off, you're gonna want to salvage your and most of the time you're gonna be playing 2. If you are able to tri-field the Kanata, that's even better, because your main goal is to replenish your hand off the first change, the first instance of this Climax combo, and for every subsequent looping, you're gonna stock the rest of the cards. So your main salvage targets, if you can, depending if they're in the waiting room, are these 2. So you have a lineup for another Climax combo loop. If you don't have the Climax swapper, you go after this one. You can also the next target that you would have for the salvage could be the Roboco, or even this 3/2 Marin. So your goal is to basically set up your hand in a way to get the resources that you need, and if you already got your resources, you basically stock or put those characters into stock to build compression, and when you go into the next deck, you increase your likelihood of canceling more damage. The best thing about this Kanata is, depending on the matchup, you don't have to front every lane. You can just simply side the lanes and have your opponent deal with this card on defense, as this card's offensive power is actually pretty weak. but its defensive capabilities are really awesome, as you are going to most likely salvage one of each of these backups and use this as a way of threatening your opponent's lanes. So when they try to crack back, if they can't reach the power thresholds, you pretty much get to preserve the Kanata for another turn of looping this Climax combo, which is why, again, you play your Akai Hato here and the Climax Swapper, because your goal at level 2 is to constantly loop this Climax in order to either early play heal if you have to, or just add cards from the waiting room to your hand or stock them. So you're basically either building compression or salvaging key tools that you need for the next turn. So that's why this card is actually really good, and that's why it's actually the majority of Hololive builds in Japan, as it allows you, this card allows you to just not only modulate your damage through the Climax combo change ability, but also be able to replenish your hand after you load up your combo. Because one of the weak spots of most, if not all, Climax combos is if you can't get it off, how are you gonna replace it? How are you gonna make sure that they you have a return in your investment, aka being able to play it out? And most Climax combos tend to just have a singular, like, 1-for-1 style, where you are essentially just regaining the resources that you committed either through salvage brainstorm, salvage Climax combos, or searching Climax combos. However, the Kanata has that flexibility where you're not just adding one, but you're adding 2 cards from the waiting room per copy of Kanata. So if you have 3 out, you can essentially clean stock 6 characters from waiting room, or add up to 6 cards from your waiting room to your hand. So this allows you just great selectivity, and it's really good against standby because of the fact that you can just side if you decide to +1 global +1 soul. Continuing on with the level 0s, we play 1 copy of the Watame anti early play. So the early play condition is 4 more other characters on stage. When you can play it from hand as a level 2, and when it comes into play, you can reveal the top part of your deck. And if that character is a Hololive character, you can select a character from your opponent's stage that is level 3 or lower and put it to the bottom of their deck. So you're mainly going to be targeting the 2/2s that have hand on core, as they are normally a nuisance, as they can just recur their strategy and crack back by forcing reverses on the Kanatas. So being able to just bottom deck those 2/2s in order to just accrue free damage is just nice. Continuing on with the level 2s, we play 1 copy of the stock top Matsuri. And then lastly, we play 4 copies of the Towards the Future Marin Hosho Marin, which has a Climax combo that pairs with the door, which is essentially a pay 1, discard 1, burn 2, and it gains +2k. It also has an on-play ability where you can sack a character from your stage to waiting room to check up to the top 3 cards of your deck. From among those 3, you can choose 1 to add to your hand, choose another 1 to put into stock, and then send the rest to waiting room. So this essentially becomes a 3-1 finisher that, with Climax combo, you're able to easily tri-field and pay the cost in order to get the burn 2. Overall, I do like this deck. My overall thoughts about this deck is this deck is really fun, but it does have a huge learning curve. So if you're picking this deck up for the first time, be prepared to essentially lose many games, as this deck requires you to kind of know when to push damage and use your resources correctly, because you can lose hand really quickly in the early games if you're not able to effectively plus off of your Rickies and your Brainstorm. So you want to be very careful on how you sequence things, as the wrong sequence can either set you back or essentially stifle you from advancing. So you can either stay in the same position that you were the previous turn, or advance or fall behind. Like, everything is reliant on sequencing, so you got to be very careful with this deck. Overall, I do love playing Hololive, and I will be showcasing more variants of this, as this deck is probably in consideration, in my opinion, not this specific deck but the set itself, for taking to the Bushiroad Online Rumble, as well as possibly the Bushiroad Championship Series. So I'm always going to be testing a lot of English during this time, because we're entering the next phase after trios, which is regionals. So I hope you guys are ready for that. I will be doing a video on some of the decks you should be keeping an eye out when you are preparing for either Bushiroad Online Rumble or BCS. So keep an eye out for that. I will be doing a video very shortly about that, as well as a deck profile of another Hololive variant, which is going to be either Corone Marine or any other of my plussing level ones that I've been kind of testing out. So overall, don't forget to once again rate, comment, subscribe, false crack that like button, and stay on point, guys. Peace out.